one of the things that's like my pet peeve in this industry, and I think people are starting to realize this, is like, just because you have the features doesn't mean you have the features. Like, it's like, yes, like a broker's like looking at a checklist and they're like, oh, well, your competitor has this. They have this, 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 and this. Exactly. And then I'm like, okay, well, have you used those features set on that platform? And what they end up realizing, and this is one of, I think, Finmo's strategic and key advantages, is it just works. Like, it's just such a good product and so intuitive to use. We are that way because we didn't try and build everything that every broker has ever said we should. And so if you're a new broker and you want something simple, you want something easy, you want to learn it fast, and you want it to work every time, and you want it to load fast, like, it's amazing to me how many brokers just come over to our platform because they're like, it just wouldn't load.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mortgage Tech Talks. Today, I have Carter Zimmerman, who is the president of Lendesk. He rose through the ranks at Finmo through their acquisition, Finmo's acquisition by Lendesk, and now, of course, is the president there. We talk about a ton of stuff. We talk about his origin stories, some new information for me, which I thought was very relevant. We get a little bit philosophical. We can talk about flow state and the value of competition, but then we dive right back into just mortgages in Canada in general, the competitive landscape, how he views it today, where he sees his foothold, and how actually he told me that foothold is actually not the right term to use anymore, and really where the future is in different things like AI, of course, but also openness of data, openness of ideas, and how in the Canadian space, we are perfectly positioned for it. It was a refreshing conversation. I think you're going to get a lot of it. We'll see you on the other side. Hey, Carter, how are you?
Doing well. How about yourself, Tom?
Yeah, I'm good. No complaints. I'm in a new office. We caved. We used to have a big office that could fit everyone. Now it's just a seat for me and Mass. From a lot of pressure from the team. So that's what you see. All these boxes behind me here is a recent move. But
nice.
Without going down that whole in-office rabbit hole, let's get into some stuff here. Maybe just to start, and this is something that since I've known you, I don't really actually know the answer to this. So these are going to be a lot of questions that like are a personal interest to me, is just kind of how you got into Canadian mortgages. I think a lot of people know that, you know, you are not originally in Canada at the very least. Maybe you had some history in the mortgage industry. I don't know. But how did you kind of stumble into this? Was it just kind of luck in a sense? And what's that story? Because it's honestly one that I'm not familiar with. So love to hear that a little bit.
Well, I woke up at age 22 and I said, I want to be in Canadian mortgages. No, I'm just kidding.
Like everyone, right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's actually a really cool story. So I'll give you the kind of the shortened version here, but I actually started as a marketer in the heyday of Facebook. So I had my own agency, and this is back in a day, and I'm sure the broker audience, especially the ones who run ads, can appreciate this. This would have been about 10 years ago. You could run like a what's your home worth funnel and just generate hundreds of leads for like an average cost of $3. You could create like a PDF. We called it like, a lead magnet, a gated lead magnet with a landing page, super easy funnel to build, follow-up email sequence. And, at the time I was doing this agency, running these ads, and I got connected through, it's actually a company called Lead Pages. I was like listed as one of their vendors, and Greg Williamson was looking to get some lead pages done. And he actually messaged my agency, and I called him up, started getting the story, understanding it, started doing some work for him, generating some leads. Also was working with him on his mastermind business and generating some coaching leads. And one thing led to another. And I was running ads for a lot of the mortgage brokers in that mastermind group.
Yeah.
And it was about that time that I also started to realize like the state that the industry was in from a tech perspective. Sure. So I was like, okay, guys, I'm running, 50 to 100 leads. Like, what's happening to these leads? Let's check down funnel. And they're like, oh, well, here's the email exchange that happened with this client to collect the application. It kind of fell off at this point. And I was like, wait, we're doing an entire application over email and like documents. So yeah, it's like 50 emails long, back and forth. Or I could use this iframe from Filogix. And I saw the iframe and I was like, if this is the state that this is in, like we need something better. Did a little friends and family round. And that was the origin of Finmo in 2017.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, just a couple of things there I think I picked up on, which I think is kind of really cool. One thing I always say is like, you never know. I don't know the best way to put this, like what that one connection will lead to. Like if I go back and trace that origin story, it's like you being a partner on this lead pages thing listed on their marketplace. Like that was probably an application you did one afternoon. I don't know. I don't know how intense it was. You can tell me.
Yeah, let me tell you something even crazier.
Yeah.
To this day, actually, I don't even check it anymore, but like
Yeah.
for years, Greg was the only person who converted on that landing page of me being in that group. So that's even funnier.
Right. Yeah. So it's this thing that you filled out one afternoon that, Greg took a chance on you, I guess. And like, how different would your life have been? Well, would be had you not done that. Right. So
Yeah.
I don't know what the lesson there is. Just, take those opportunities because, put in that extra effort, whatever it is, fill in that extra form, build that one extra connection because you really have no idea. But yeah. And then I guess, just bringing it all around to, obviously the Finmo side of things. Yeah, it's I feel that it's probably, I mean, what do you think was unique about the way you guys could look at that? Because I don't think you were the first person to look at that Filogix iframe and say, whatever, and no disrespect to Filogix, obviously, but just kind of the state of things as they were, you probably weren't the first person to say, I've seen better forms. Was it a different way that you guys was it a mindset thing for you guys, or was it just the willingness to go out and actually do something about it? Like, what do you think allowed you to go from that, just that thought of, hey, there's got to be something better, to actually, building a company and a successful company around that idea?
Hmm. I would have to give a lot of credit to the early users and investors. I think there was a huge strategic advantage of a core group of mortgage brokers who came in, put, hard cash into the startup. And I remember in those early days, we would ship, new product every couple weeks, and I would be in a Slack group with them and they'd be like, "Hey, this sucks," or "This is really awesome," and give me really direct feedback on how to make this better. And there's also a bit of naivety where, like, if I would have known how hard it was, like, it's funny. I think back to like 2017 and like our model for the company was like, oh, lender connections in 3 years, we're making, all this money and have all this volume. And it's so much harder than it actually looks on a model on paper. So there was like part of you that, yeah, you just don't know how hard it's going to be. So you just do it. Right. And then one thing leads to another. But yeah, the feedback was huge, and having that buy-in early and those core brokers as champions, I think, was what led to our success.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a concept talked about on I think on this program before, which is very early on. It's nice to be your own first customer in a sense, and I guess maybe Greg was that in a sense, but a small early group of early investors can almost act like that. And I think me and you have kind of talked about this before, but there's some excitement about that really early stage where you can like ship things so quickly, right? Where it's like you get that feedback, and then I don't know if it was you or someone on your team or what it was, but it's like literally that night you're making that change and it like ships the next day. And it's kind of like that lean startup. I think to any business, you can apply it of like, it's not the best idea that does it, but it's the quickest to market, the quickest you can get that feedback and then implement that feedback. Right.
Yeah. Well, and
yeah, go ahead.
building product, like, I mean, that was something that, I was learning on the fly, but I had like an intuitive sense about it. And it came from, I think, my ability to really like get in the mindset of the people that I was trying to create this product for. So some people call that like, empathy for your customer, to be able to really put yourself in their shoes and understand what they're going through. That helped me make some decisions and like, to not overcomplicate things. I remember there'd be times where it was like, okay, we're building smart docks for the first time. This industry's never seen it. I told some people the idea and they're like, that's impossible. Like, you don't know how complicated it is to look at an application and suggest documents. And it's like, okay, but I'm not trying to do 100% out of the gates. I'm not nailing it every time. What does it look like to nail it? And so you do these iterative improvements where then they're like, oh, this actually could, I see what you're doing here. Here's some more feedback, and over time. But yeah, like, it's so scary looking at it all from the very beginning. It's just like, got to break it down into these bite-sized chunks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. And I think it's like a fallacy I think we all run into, which is, we see a problem or problem set and we say, Well, in order to have a solution for it, we need to solve everything, right? I mean, we run into it all the time for us where, with our CRM that we have, it can do 1,000 things, right? And someone can come with a wish list of 1,500 things and they say, okay, well, you can't do these 500, I'm out or whatever. But we want to turn around and be like, but you just saved on these 1,000, right? But
Yeah.
again, it's nothing. I think everyone falls into that trap where it's that mindset. And so maybe it's the outside perspective, maybe it's the naivety to be able to say, okay, yes, there's this massive problem. Yes, it's a big problem set, whether it's smart docs or lender connections, but what's the first bite, right? What's just the first thing that we can do? And I think that what that does, and you can tell me if this was your experience, is it kind of breaks that mindset then, right? If you just do one thing, then they say, oh, crap, yeah, I don't care about that 500. Let's do the 1,000, right? I don't know if that's what the experience that you had.
No, that is the experience. Yeah. And your opinions on, like let's say there's a complicated problem we're solving from a feature perspective. And everyone in the company, like all the product team, engineering team is really sure on part A. But then we have B, C, D, like that are all meeting to get planned at the same time.
Yeah.
Sometimes just doing A gives you some kind of new clarity. Like you spend 2 weeks in a sprint, you build A, you get it in the hands of a user, and then B, C, D all of a sudden evolve into some of the like more or like best ideas that you've ever come up with. Like you just don't know until you get some of it in market and you have time to sit on it. I value that. Like I'm the kind of leader that will say, let me sleep on this. And I genuinely will think about it. Yeah. And I'll wake up the next day with like a different perspective on a problem. I think that's really valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. I mean, I think that it's, a couple of things on that. I would say, it goes back a little bit, and I was lamenting at the beginning of the conversation, but man, it's circumstance bringing it back in. And that's why one of the things I really did enjoy about in office is that you'd be working hard at whatever problem and maybe making headway, trying to solve A, B, and C, not really doing it. And then you go for lunch and you're just kind of walking down the street and you're getting the fresh air and, whatever, just something clicks. And I think it's an interesting way that I think just people think and the way our brains work as much as we can understand them. So I completely...
Yeah, it's actually, I'll say one more thing here, because like I actually am very passionate about finding like personal peak performance. And I think this could be relevant to, there's a segment of the audience that isn't, in this tech product building world. Like
we're getting a bit deep on the tech side, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. What's the parallel, right? Yeah. To like, how do you find this like personal peak performance, which has always been a question to me. And there is something to say about rest and recovery, which is really what we're getting at. Yeah. And it's an active rest. Like what I'm not saying is you've got a problem, you've got a major business milestone or something that's really just afflicting you mentally. Yeah. Sometimes taking that moment to have active rest. I was reading that there's a disproportionate amount of Nobel Prize winners that actually had rock climbing as a hobby. Okay. And the author was suggesting, I think the book was called Rest, but the author was suggesting that having these all-consuming hobbies that you can get into flow state actually help you solve other problems. So if I can do a fully immersed mountain biking, if I can get super into golf, if I can get locked in a hobby, sometimes like you just come out of that and you have the idea for your business that's going to unlock the next phase of growth, which I think is so cool. And I think it's counterintuitive to a lot of people who think I have to work harder to be more successful.
Well, yeah. And to couple that with what we were talking about earlier is that, real business success, I think in a lot of cases doesn't come from, a bunch of small decisions or a bunch of small wins. Like what I'm saying, coupling to earlier is your lead pages example, right? Where you're grinding away on all these Facebook ads, all these little things, but maybe it's not exactly perfect, but the idea is that it was one big thing that led to this massive success, right? And
exactly.
The flow state. What's your flow state? What do you have something like that kind of gets you into the flow?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I love playing golf. Like yeah, but
I think I heard that about you. You have a reputation, I guess. So yeah, I don't know, for better for worse. But
the long drive winner at Home Trust 2 years running.
Oh yeah,
just kidding. That's my claim to fame. Yeah. No, it's like it's one of those sports that I think playing it competitively, especially, I grew up with two brothers. I don't know if many people know this about me, but like both of my brothers are professional athletes, or
Mm.
one of them still is, one of them was. One of them played for Clemson, punted, and then played a year in the NFL or summer in the NFL with the Falcons. And then my younger brother, Walker, he plays soccer at Nashville and was on the Olympic team and also in the World Cup. And so I've just seen kind of that high level sports and how that is such an essential part of my life, and watching them with like some of the things with peak performance, rest and recovery. And yeah, it's been a fun journey, and yeah, like it's actually something that I admire them both for.
Yeah, one last thing on this, and is again a personal curiosity, and then we can maybe switch back to more on the mortgage side. But curious, you talked about the competitiveness of these interactions that you have, and I think there's been a little bit of this is just my personal opinion, a little bit of a war on competitiveness, right? Where hey, everyone's a winner, everyone gets a ribbon, and there's a place for that, and whatever it is. But I think that there's a place for that, but there is a place for competitiveness. What do you feel in that sense of how has competitiveness influenced these types of flow states that you're in, or other areas of your life? Would you say?
Yeah. I would say you have to, wow, we're really getting philosophical here, but I would say you have to, yeah, you have to compartmentalize it, right?
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah.
I think competitiveness is like, it's so incredible for the human beings, like to actually, and it's part of what drives me.
Sure.
Like I told our team the other day, and this, you know, take, if people are listening to this and they hate this, like, just let it go. I sometimes think about my competitors to Lendesk
Yeah.
in a similar fashion, where it's like,
Sure.
I don't just want to win. I want to make you stop trying. Like I want to win so huge that I want you to be discouraged and actually just say, throw in the towel. They got it, guys. And that's a fun spirit. That's not like I'm not looking to, I think I do that like tongue in cheek, where I come with this mental attitude, but I compartmentalize it enough to say, I really like the CEOs and the other leaders I'm actually in this competition with.
Sure.
This is like a character you slip into to almost like enhance life and define new parts of yourself that you didn't think existed. So I can compartmentalize it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's an interesting idea, and maybe it goes back to the flow state to say, okay, for this particular outcome, I need to take on this persona, right, to optimize to this outcome, right, and maybe that's business success, but and so maybe that's on the Lendesk side, but then maybe on the Carter side, you personally, you're saying, well, I also want to be Carter, and I also want to have a personal relationship with these people, right, who happen to just work for these companies, right? So
Exactly.
well, speaking of, let's kind of get ourselves back on track here on the mortgage side of things. I think we're talking about competitors, we're talking about that thing, and I think that maybe at a 1,000-foot level or 10,000-foot level, I obviously know kind of you and all your competitors to some degree, but I think people not outside looking in, more in the industry, this is I think how people kind of characterize things. Is they say, okay, well, Filogix, they've been the big incumbent, and obviously that's a huge strength of theirs and just their familiarity in the marketplace. You got Velocity and the Boss players who are a bit more aligned to networks, right? They have respective networks kind of behind them. And so then coming around to you and Lendesk and I guess Finmo, how do you guys kind of see yourself in that landscape? Do you say, well, I'll keep it open ended, right? Kind of what's the foothold, right? Okay, if these each have kind of these competitive edges, as I've described them, where do you feel your competitive edge is?
Yeah, I was
That's a big
thinking.
question, I guess, right? I mean, there's a lot to that, but
Yeah.
super
Well,
high
I'll
level.
start.
Yeah.
I'll start here. So, you mentioned the word foothold, and I think I would have agreed with you 2 years ago that's what I would describe as like, what is Finmo's foothold in the industry? But like, I really do think the momentum and market share we've been able to grab in this space is more of like a small mountain, you could say. Like, I think we're
Yeah.
we're now like past the foothold, and we're this well established, very very like established third.
Do you fight
Feels
that? Like, someone like me coming along and saying, "Hey, you need to find your foothold," and you're like, "What are you talking about? Like, we're so established. Like, do you
It's
fight that still?"
Yeah, no, I mean it's actually this is the year that I think it's changed. Like we started announcing a little bit more about some of our funded volumes. We started telling a little bit of a story of the customers we're starting to attract, who we have on Finmo. And I think it surprised some people. For a long time I was like, why would you go around telling this? Like this is like competitors could just, try and go after the people you have. Like, but then you get to be a certain size where I was like, okay, it's time to turn a corner. Like I was still hearing people saying things like, oh, they're running out of cash, and it's like, yeah, maybe in the first like year of Finmo that was a thing. And now it's like, it's just funny that the competitors will say it's always like a new thing. And I joked with someone the other day, I was like, Finmo is like the Bitcoin of this industry where everyone's like, every year they say it's dead and then it comes back like even stronger than it's ever been. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so this is how I
An
felt
outlook
about
like that.
Finmo,
Yeah.
and this is the year that I think people are like, shit, this is like actually here to stay, and they're not going anywhere,
Yeah.
and maybe I should jump on this train, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we have sights on being the number one independent player in the space, and I think we're within striking distance on that, and it would surprise people, but I think we're inside 2 years from flipping the incumbent and being the number one. And I say that with like,
Yeah.
I'm glad we preface this with the competitiveness. There's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of people I love at
Yeah.
Biologics.
Yeah.
There's a lot of brokers, and I'm a huge look. I'll say this too. I am so passionate about the open side of technology in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
From a philosophical point of view, like I really, really appreciate how, and I get to see both sides of it. I have a unique view because of a lens that I get to see in the mortgage broker world in the US.
Mm-hmm.
This ecosystem that we've built is, I would say, even further ahead than the US mortgage broker tech ecosystem. And I think that is because this has been a hyper competitive POS LOS space, and a lot of players moving very quickly, challenging each other. Scarlet releases something, Logix releases something, Velocity, we're trying to innovate. They're trying to catch up to us. We're trying to catch up to them. It's been really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, maybe going back to, what we were talking about earlier, and kind of, I guess, my overlap in this whole conversation was going back to more the, opening up to CRMs and different types of tools. And again, I do think that that's the way that, I guess, just tech in general is going, because there are going to be increasingly just sophisticated tools, features, whatever, AI or not AI related, that will exist, and that ability to connect to them is going to be important. So yeah, I guess just, I mean, maybe we can spend the last couple of minutes talking about AI, but maybe just your final quick thoughts on kind of this concept of, okay, the all-in-one system versus you guys. I think you're one of the few players who have very intentionally said, hey, we're not going to build this or we're not going to build that. I mean, maybe I would imagine that's like an ongoing battle internally for Finn. I bet you it's just endless. And I don't know if you're laughing because I stroked a chord or something here, but I bet you it is. We've at least
the number of times I said internally, I just want a damn Kanban board. And then our team, like, which we actually are going to do. At some point, we are going to build a Kanban board, because like there's been this line that we've held as a company where it's like, we don't want to get in the CRM game.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is that so many CRMs do it so well. You start building a few features and it's like, okay, now you have a Kanban board, but now I need triggers. So when I move stages, oh, now that you have triggers, I need them to be filtered by the type of client going through the funnel. And so all of a sudden, then I'm building Blue, right? And then I've
or whatever,
lost them flash, right? Yeah. But I will say our thinking has shifted, and these are some of the like brilliant product minds who come on lately have said there are some things that people might categorize as CRM features. Fair, like. And I do think we could do those well, being the native platform. And so there's some like loan automation, like on certain events, like we could update partners better. But these like table stakes, and Kanban's a great example. It's a way to visualize your pipeline. Yeah. That's absolutely what we should have in Finmo. Yeah. And so some people are like, what's coming? And if you want to call those CRM features, great. Are we going to try and build a full-fledged CRM? No. And the answer I always give to someone about this is, if you're a small, maybe even trending on medium-sized broker, there's probably a day that coming soon, that Finmo will do everything you need to run your business.
Yeah.
And then there's this other group where we do try and enhance the connectivity to all of our partners, because it's so funny. You know this from being in the CRM space. Brokers will come up to you and be like, I don't like this CRM, or there's no good CRMs in this industry. And I'm like, I mean, there's one for you. Like, what you're saying is there's not one that you specifically like and that does what you want it to do in the same way. And then a new one will pop up. It'll start to look really good. And then they'll cater to, all these new customers. And then it starts to get a little hard to use. The pattern, right? And then that software becomes complicated. And now we're back to there's no good CRMs in the industry, right? It's just so, to answer your question, is it a myth of the all-in-one? I think that the all-in-one is going to sacrifice some level of preference. You can have an all-in-one, but you're not going to have it the exact way you want it. And why not build kind of this common layer in Finmo that everyone loves, and then branch out and enhance the connectivity so you find your flavor, you find the thing that supercharged your business. And we want to make that easier, right? We want to make it feel like an all-in-one, but it's not. And that's kind of the next phase I think this market is going to go to.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I feel that, when we talk about this, I mean, I don't know, you guys can take credit or not, it's your choice, but 2019 platforms really started opening up, and boom, an explosion. And we were part of that, I think, explosion. A ton of tools coming online. We can integrate with this and that. And brokers went out and got a ton of different tools, right? And that was great. And for a while, but then kind of the market slowed down maybe a little bit, and people started looking at their credit card bill and realized they were subscribed to 18 different things, and they didn't know the login to half of them. Right. And so the pendulum swinging back. I don't know if we're going to go all the way back to everyone being on one system, almost for sure not. But I think how far the pendulum swings back, to your point, depends on the type of business that's being run, right? If you are maybe that small, medium-ish team out there, maybe you do swing all the way back, and maybe one is okay, because there has to be that ROI conversation to say, okay, if I am going to take on a second or a third tool, what efficiencies am I gaining, and what's the cost, both in terms of my time and my money to take that on? And we obviously see it, like you said, we're obviously in the CRM space. And I mean, I think you're exactly right that that's the way it's going. We see it with tools like Velocity and like Scarlet, who do everything. I think in a sense they are all in one, but they're very popular at that one type of persona. But as people start to grow, that's when we start getting phone calls to say, okay, well now, I've started to hit maybe some walls. And
we have so many agents that come on Finmo, and this is going back to kind of the way we build product and the way we think about things. And one of the things that's like my pet peeve in this industry, and I think people are starting to realize this, is like, just because you have the features doesn't mean you have the features. Like, it's like,
yes,
like a broker's like looking at a checklist and they're like, oh, well, your competitor has this. They have this, 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 and this.
Exactly.
And then I'm like, okay, well, have you used those features yet on that platform? And what they end up realizing, and this is one of, I think, Finmo's strategic and key advantages, is it just works. Like, it's just such a good product and so intuitive to use. We are that way because we didn't try and build everything that every broker has ever said we should. And so if you're a new broker and you want something simple, you want something easy, you want to learn it fast, and you want it to work every time, and you want it to load fast. Like, it's amazing to me how many brokers just come over to our platform because they're like, it just wouldn't load.
Yeah, I know. But, it's, you talk about like Jeff Bezos and things he's done. He was like obsessed about like the last millisecond of latency, right? Like it was just insane. And I mean, I completely agree with that point. Small anecdote, and then maybe we'll talk about some AI stuff. We do a little bit of work on the insurance side. We have a life insurance CRM. And we have a competitor, and same idea, checklist. And one of their checklists is this one integration. And, we've been, I don't know, losing deals because of this, but we know people use that integration and it doesn't work. Like, it's this thing that it literally does, like, the data doesn't come across like to that degree of like it not working. But on their website, we have, this integration, and it's that checkbox. And so, I think people are getting smarter about that too, right? I think that, I think as tech becomes more used, I think people know the difference between a checkbox and, okay, what's the latency actually? Is my data actually coming across, right? And I think that's only for the best.
Yeah, 100%. And we're about to see just such an explosion of new tools. Like, we think that we have, like, it's like we're in this exponential era where tools are building tools. Like we used to have coders building tools, but now you're starting to see all of these CRMs getting built, like no code, AI driven.
Yeah.
And it's only going to exponentially increase. So like find the platform that's open, that's wanting to connect, that's wanting to facilitate this. The all-in-one can feel all-in-one. That's what brokers, I think, are struggling to understand. They're like, I just hate having two tabs open.
Yeah. Or two logins I have to remember, or whatever it might
two
be.
logins I have to remember, something like that. But there's a day coming where like the Finmos of the world, we're going to try and make those experiences feel more integrated and intuitive so that it feels all in one, right?
Yeah.
That's right. That's where we're going. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to go too far to realize, okay, that's not going to happen, because you do have two tabs open. You have whatever system, Finmo, Velocity File, whatever you're using, and you have your inbox. So you do have two systems, and you do have maybe like at least, right? But the point is that, the better connection, the better. I mean, that's one. And, email makes sense to have that second tab because there's so much utility to it. But then to your point, I think what's coming down the line are other tools that are going to have a ton of utility as well, right? I think, that's just going to be an explosion. So let's get into that, I guess, maybe a bit here.
Yeah.
You pull at the conference you're at, you played a clip of an AI voice basically doing a prospecting call acting as the broker, doing a prospecting call with a real client. And that was cool. I mean, that was cool. But my question for you, and I'm putting you on the spot here a bit, was that a boondoggle one-off, something cool to show at a conference, or was that something that was like real and something that's really making an impact in their business? Because I think that's where we're at right now, and a lot of these, it's like, okay, that's a cool tool, yeah, I get it, but where is the business impact? I guess that's one thing. So just curious on that example or anything else you have.
Yeah, that particular test was run by a broker who did 8,000 of those calls, and they actually outperformed a BDR. Like they're an internal, so it was like 7% conversion rate to schedule, and the cost was like $400. So that was actually used at a pretty wide scale. And I said on the stage, this is how fast technology is moving. I said on the stage, this was built by a developer using a solution called Vappy and then connected to Twilio. Quite a complex build. Like it's not super fast for your normal broker to roll.
Yeah. Be tough. Yeah.
Since I talked on that panel and since I showed that in the Lendesk Mortgage Minute, as an example, I've had a handful of brokers message me and say, don't tell anyone, but I basically have created the same thing. And I used this solution that was like more of an out of the box friendly
drop type.
I thought by like end of year, like we'd have some solution, and they're like, no, it already exists. And I'm using this to do some of my like cold outreach, call scheduling. And I was very surprised by that. Like, and this is where it goes back to like, we're pushing this industry like all gas, no brake. Like Canada mortgage brokers are killing it. I'm watching what's happening in the US, and there's a lot of good traction there. But believe it or not, most lender integrations, they are still done through file uploads. They don't have APIs into these lenders. Like that's where they are right now.
Yeah.
They exist in certain one-off POS LOSs, like certain tools exist. And obviously this AI stuff exists, but I have never seen such entrepreneurship where these brokers are willing to just get in and just try the newest tool. It's wild. It's so fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, again, I feel like we're so much in the I don't know what I don't know stage where it's, I think when you're in that spot, you have to be trying just as much as you can, right? And doing it maybe in like a low cost way, right? Like not going out and spending 20 grand on a developer to build this thing that's going to be, irrelevant in 2 months, right? As you put it, right? But I think it very much so is that. And, it's interesting. And it's also, I guess, I don't know if you have a thought on why you feel that this industry in particular is so entrepreneurial in that sense, but it's cool to hear, right? It's encouraging. It's exciting, right? To feel that we're in that moment and we're in an ecosystem that is going to, really push that envelope, right?
Yeah.
So, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say like that is the tech kind of like players in the space working together, trying to push the envelope. I think that gets picked up by the brokers. They're also trying it. They're pushing us to be better. And so, if any broker's still listening to us at this point,
yeah,
I would say just keep that feedback coming. Like we get, I know it's sometimes frustrating to give your idea and be like, they haven't acted on it yet.
Yeah.
But you resurfacing that, you having other people who are like-minded surface that, we probably have a product board where we categorize feedback with thousands of pieces of feedback. And what we do is we try and rank those and we sort them to say, like, what are the common themes? So your voice coming in like does matter. And Finmo is what it is because you made it this way. Like, that's what I would say to the brokers. You were early adopters. You're our best partners. You're the people who are out there on the front lines telling us what works with clients and what doesn't. So just keep the feedback coming, keep the entrepreneurship. Some of our best ideas have come from emails from brokers, and we want that to continue.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I think, we're definitely in that stage too, where, maybe going back to openness, but in a different way, where there's no downside in sharing ideas, right? And doing that sort of thing. Like, I think there was a recent tweet that went viral by Jack Dorsey, was it? I think the original Twitter guy.
Yeah.
Where he said, delete all IP laws. I don't know if you saw that. And then
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Elon's like said, I agree. So without going into those characters specifically, but, I think we're so much in that phase right now where things are moving so quickly that we can't have these walls up. And these are IP in a sense as walls around ideas. Right.
Yeah.
And very much so we were talking about openness of data, another type of data is an idea. And so we're in this stage where you need to have that openness because things are moving so quickly. And at the end of the day, execution is what actually matters more, not actually having that idea. So the more you can share it and voice it, the more, I think there's no downside, I guess I'd put it that way. Right. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that aligns to what you were just saying, but that's kind of where my head went when you were talking about keep the ideas coming.
The execution is worship. And it's like part of an ism, at our company. And, the ideas are what they are, and everyone can have ideas, and like,
ideas are cheap, right?
Yeah.
I could, yeah.
Jeff would probably say the same thing. Jeff Willis, I'm referring to him, but like as a competitor, but like if I phoned him up tomorrow and I said, hey, here's our best ideas of what we want to do with Finmo, he'd be like, dude, we have a full roadmap. Like ideas are just ideas. He could do the same thing to us where he would call me and be like, here's some of the best ideas. I'm like, I can't slot that till early next year because I got my own ideas that I'm trying to execute on. Yeah. Everyone has these like incredible ideas, but it's really about like, can you move it through in a way that's like organized and timely to get it to your user?
Well, can you execute it for your user, and can you do it in a way that they will actually use it? And we've had the same anecdote because they obviously have some CRM features. We come to them where there'd be a mutual client, someone using Velocity for deal submission and Blue for CRM, and they'd say, I really need this, and they come to us and we get all excited, and then we go to Jeff and say, I think we're going to do this, and he'd say like, oh, we already had that, but this user wasn't using it in Velocity because maybe they didn't know about it, or maybe it wasn't as intuitive. So yeah, again, it's kind of full circle to some of the stuff we were talking about earlier about execution, but also just things working right in the way.
Like is it just a check mark on a feature list, or is it when you use it, do you feel good using it? I always talk about like when I ordered Chipotle, like it's a great experience, right? I'm on this app and it's just walking you through, and it's like I have
yes, I do unpack. Thank you. Yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting to get hungry. Clear. It just gives me this like almost a hit of dopamine. And if Chipotle can make it that easy to order, like, can I give a similar feeling to this broker? Like this feeling of we just launched our Finmo AI tier, but I remember the first time when we uploaded an MLS and it just like extracted the data and had it populated in the app. I was like, I feel good. Like I felt a rush. It's just like. It's so good. It's so good. And I hope brokers feel the same way when they're using our product. It just works. It's clean. It's intuitive. Feels like Chipotle.
Feels like Chipotle. That's going to be the tagline. Okay. Well, if you end up using that tagline, I do want IP credit on that one at least, but
I think you got to get Chipotle in on the IP credit.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, anyways, well, listen, we kind of gone over time here a little, but I think it's been well worth it. It's a great convo. And I think when we started this convo, I said 30 minutes and you said, I don't know if we'll be able to fill that up. And we're going on 45 and I think we could still keep going. So we'll maybe draw the line there, but maybe we'll get you on again sometime soon. But thanks a lot for this. I had fun, learned a lot. And like I said, maybe we'll do it again.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I think what you're doing for the space is awesome. Sharing these ideas, sharing the IP like we're talking about, just talking about the process. And one thing I've been learning in life recently is it's pretty cliche, but journey, not destination. And, there's always with tech, there's this thing you want to build, this place you want to get to as a broker. There's a business ideal you have in your head, but it really is about the people, the process, really getting deeper into the story with people who are like-minded in the industry. So this has been really fun.
Amazing. All right, Carter. We'll see you next time. Love it.
Yeah.